Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about the new season of Torchlight Infinite Frozen Canvas. This one comes out on the 24th of October and is a perfect kind of segue to whatever you want to do after in PoE 2, especially for me. I very much appreciate having something awesome to fill the time with. One thing I want to point out is if you've never played this game before, then definitely check out my review of it. I made it, I think, 3 months ago from here. So it's still very recent, and a lot of the things that I criticized, they have actually addressed. They even reacted to my video, so that's quite interesting. We're going to talk about some of those changes, especially monetization in this video. But in general, this season seems like they want to take the game into a new direction, simplify it a little bit without taking away a lot of the systems that they have, make the systems a lot more streamlined. What exactly that means, we're going to outline right now. Also, of course, if you want to watch the full announcement unfiltered, I'll also link it down in the description. Now, let's start at the monetization changes, because this is probably the most controversial thing about Torchlight Infinite, at least in the West, is the monetization model with pets and heroes being paid. Heroes being paid is kind of defensible because other games do that, but the problem is heroes are something you want to try out. You don't just want to buy a hero and then you don't like it, but now you can't give it back and you just wasted money. You want to really try it out because you don't know what the game's going to be like. So they said basically, okay, for next league, we're going to make all the heroes free and see how it goes. The only exception is the newest hero that is going to be on the battle pass as always. So I very much like that. I think that's a great opportunity for people to jump into it. I really hope that's something that sticks and that they're going to keep doing moving forward. And the second thing they changed monetization wise is you can complete a 20 boss challenge and get a legendary packed spirit. And that is not just going to be any packed spirit like one of the shittier ones. It is actually going to be one of the seasonal ones, the highly sought after ones that you can usually only get with gacha, and that is a big deal. I think that is great. The one concern I have is knowing them. Some of these boss challenges, they've had these events before. They are rough. I'm being sweaty in this game for 2 weeks and I'm having trouble clearing some of the events they are putting out. We're talking billions and billions of HP and not the easiest bosses either. So we'll have to see what this is. I love how they call it here free legendary packed spirit, which I don't know about that free part. I'm a little bit worried here that this might be really hard to get for the people who need it the most to kind of catch up on it. But either way, we'll have to see it once it comes out. I very much appreciate that they are listening to the feedback. As for the frozen canvas mechanic, let's take a little bit of a peek. This is kind of a mechanic that they basically advertise as make your own map. And it kind of reminds me of old Synthesis or something like Alva Temple in Path of Exile. And I think it looks pretty nice. It looks very interesting. I don't know if I like the layout. It's a little bit mobile-y, but other than that, I do like the idea. And when it comes to Torchlight, one of the things I almost universally like is their league mechanic design, because they never withhold quality of life or anything like that, and it's usually overly rewarding rather than underwhelming. So at worst, it's going to be too rewarding and people are going to engage with the new mechanic, which is a good thing. Now, we don't really know too much about it. We know that make your own map style. We know there's new rewards, which are going to be special supports for skills, which are kind of advertised a little bit later. We're going to go over that a little bit later, but we don't know too much about them. And there is going to be a new passive tree that you can customize where you get extra bonuses from the league mechanic, as is tradition. Then we have a new hero, Tide Whisperer Selena. This is not just a new set of hero traits. It is a completely new hero. So Tide Whisperer Selena, your new best girl or whatever you want to call it, right? She kind of has this like mermaid theme, and she has, let's go to some gameplay as well. Like I said, you can watch this if you want to, but so it has like a tide and a bar modes or states or whatever it's called, and one is kind of channeling. You can kind of walk while you, for example, as you can see in the background, channel beams, which is unheard of, which might actually make beam skills playable, which blows my mind, right? So that is very interesting. And yeah, it kind of has these Autobomber themes. There's also these like tides that are getting shot away from her. We don't know too much. I'm just kind of blabbering on. But yeah, it's going to be a patch notes waiting room. In general, I don't know if I want to play new heroes again because they're always so goddamn expensive to build because everybody's so hyped about them. But I'll think about it. In the meantime, I'm waiting for the patch notes. So I guess we are already at that point where we can talk about the new support skills, or how they call it, new skills even. There will be 100 new special supports that get into the number 3 slot. and the number 5 slot of your supports, and they are different. For example, I'm gonna stop here. More damage, and then there is some other stuff that scales here. So it's like maybe like threshold jewels in Path of Exile. I can't exactly say. All I know is from their showcases, I will quickly show you this. They showed us 3 different things. They showed us split shot in the default state on the left side and rapid advance on the right. And basically, while you're moving, it's kind of like a channeling split shot skill that comes from the support. Now, I don't know how hard it is to get these supports, because if we look back to activation mediums, some of them will be impossible to get. They will be so goddamn rare and be hidden behind super hard content. So I don't exactly know what it means. This one makes Earthquake into a Leap Slam ability, which is super interesting. And the one that I'm looking forward to the most is the last one here, which is Whirling Blades, which is basically the kind of Cyclone in this game. And this Whirlwind is kind of like reminiscent of Season 1 when it was completely broken. It gives Cyclone the projectile tag and basically makes it so you have way more scaling angles. And it gives the skill way more AoE in that sense. So it's going to be very interesting. We don't exactly know what that's going to scale. Oh, you also have the Ring of Blades that is going to get spawned on your minions. As always, there's going to be some broken minion build that Zen is going to play. So keep your eyes out for that. So if you want to watch the videos, the examples are at 7:30. And yeah, these skills also won't be leveled up normally, apparently. You're actually going to level these up through new currencies, which we don't really know how hard it is to get, to acquire, but they're not going to, I think this is it, right? Let's see it. Select, yeah. They're not going to be leveled up normally, but once again, without context, we don't really know how expensive this is going to be. Now then, let's talk about itemization. They talked about quite a bit without really showing much of anything, but they talked about how some mods will be harder to get. They don't want you to easily get Aura Effect, Curse Effect, and Power Effect. Those were the biggest offenders, all the mods that are on the box, funnily enough. Those are the biggest offenders of OP builds, and they are totally correct. Other than stat stackers, that is totally the case. They want to stat squish a little bit, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. Also, like you just saw in the video, they are showing a dummy with like trillions of damage, but or I think that was actually in the hundreds of millions, to be fair. I hope they can do that because it's an absolute clown show, for example, over in D4. But yeah, so it's going to be also harder to get movement speed and skill range, which kind of had me like, ugh. But they are also increasing the base skill range and movement speed. So basically, they want you to feel better from level 1, if I understand correctly. So that's pretty cool. I don't really know how they want to do the leveling experience, but I think it's cool that they want to enable a little bit of friction while leveling, because leveling was way too easy, even for people who don't know what they're doing. And then you get into Netherrealm and Endgame, and all of a sudden, it's a complete mess. Also, one of the things I find very interesting is that they always show the game like this, which is without transparency options. If you don't know, in the game, you can turn down the transparency options. This just reminded me that this game is absolutely unplayable without that option. So I'm very happy that they showcase it right here. Now, they also removed snapshotting, which was a big deal on Thea. I would have kind of liked if they maybe showed us how exactly they want to do that or what that's about. But there's also going to be an interview soon where I'm probably going to ask about that. And then there's also shock rework, which we don't know much about. Now then, let's talk crafting. And oh boy, there is a lot changing here. If you've been playing this game for a while, you know it is kind of exhausting how often they change crafting. I don't even know what patch we're on anymore at this point. I hope there's gonna be some point where we can kind of find a system that they're happy with. I've liked a lot of their crafting systems in the past. In fact, I've said that Torchlight Infinite's crafting season from last season is my favorite one out of any RPG, including Path of Exile, which is just an absolute convoluted mess currently that only 0.1% of, or maybe 1% of players actually engage with if you take like essence spamming or whatever. But Torchlight Infinite is different in that it was always kind of easy and you were kind of like stupid not to craft, right? Kind of like that. There's another crafting system, so they want to, I don't really know what they're going for, honestly. But mostly that's because we don't know too much. But here's everything we do know so far. And I'm just gonna, I guess, let this run in the background so you can see a little bit. First up, legendary crafting system is gone. Last season, we could craft legendary items. They had legendary affixes, and then the rest we can kind of fill out as we want. I thought that was a cool system, but maybe there were problems with it. I don't think it's like a bad thing. Probably for extra design space is probably a good idea. Make legendaries actually legendary again, or unique, or whatever you want to call them, man. They removed prototype crafting. As you can see up here, there is now a split between basic affix, advanced affix, and ultimate affix. And apparently you can only have 2 advanced affixes, 2 ultimate affixes, and then the rest is going to be filled out with basic. I think you can have more basics, but I don't actually know. One thing they did say is they want everything to be a lot more deterministic now. So what's going to happen here is, if we just look at this right here, is you can literally upgrade every single mod one by one from the lowest tier to the highest tier. There's no more plasticity, there's no more bricking or anything like that, even from tier 1 to tier 0. So you can theoretically, if you have enough currency, make all of these tier 0 without really any friction. You still have to roll for it, but there is also, if you spotted this in the video, a auto crafting button, which we don't actually know exactly what it's going to do. So I'm assuming you can like get a coffee or something and come back and there's like a tier 1 there, but it's probably going to cost quite a bit. So without really knowing how much that's going to cost is obviously hard to say. But in general, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of this. This very much reminds me of harvest crafting in Path of Exile, which means you're making these basic upgrades over time, right? Over time, you're upgrading your gear, but there's never really anything hype in there, right? Like, there's never anything where you're like, oof, this is like a highlight, or this is like, oh, that sucks, or like, this is huge, right? Like, these kind of moments that make gaming special, I don't know if they're gonna be in there. Don't get me wrong, I don't love RNG, but there has to be some RNG for it to be exciting. So it's gonna be a very interesting dynamic here. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm not gonna knock it till I try it. I am a little bit concerned though. Another thing that plays into their whole mindset of wanting to have you stick to one item and just upgrade it over time is, you can't see it right here, but items can actually now have base affixes that are not the implicit. They are up here, for example, where, actually, let me check if I can find it real quickly. They are basically separate affixes, and I don't think we can right here. They're like separate affixes, like for example in synthesis, right? And it is a big deal because that means base items are worth money again. They are only going to be available in very high tiers. So that means maybe base items from the ground are going to be some of the biggest chase items. For example, you find that +1 focus blessing ring. That is apparently maybe something that is possible, right? Who knows? But they probably threw everything in there. And that's pretty exciting. They do give you one interesting thing at the end, though, where you can brick your item. You can corrupt rares again. The thing with corrupting rares, though, is you can brick the item in a big way now. See, if you do not hit Desecration, if you do not hit the ones that give you a extra corrupted affix, the item becomes soulbound. So you cannot sell a brick, which is so weird because that makes kind of no sense in my mind. Like, you finished all your item, I already put so much in, and then all of a sudden it's like bricked. And instead of you wanting to try, like selling the item, recouping your cost and trying again, you're obviously gonna pay more again to get your item, but you recoup some of your costs. Now you're kind of stuck with the item and you would have to pay like thousands of FEs anymore. I don't really know. We'll have to see. They haven't ever really made something that I'm really disappointed with when it comes to crafting. So here's hoping that the streak lasts. Next up, reworked hero traits. And oh boy, am I interested in this. So if you see right here, this is the new interface that you're looking at. And one thing you'll notice is hero relics have been completely removed. And hero memories are now tied to your hero powers. If you look here, this is how a new hero memory looks like. It has an upgrade level that will basically increase whatever you have here, apparently. And in certain fractions of upgrades, you are going to upgrade the hero trait where you socket it in. They're gonna show it in a second, but they want to make this itemization a little bit more important, apparently. And I don't know exactly where you can get these now and what they're tied to, how you can upgrade them. But this is an example of what they show. And if you see this, level details, next level details. So from the first one to the second one, you see that the critical strike rating per rage goes up from 0.3 to 0.5, which is an incredible increase. So we know that these, I think they said they're going up to level 5. So they want you to basically get stronger and stronger over time. Another system that you kind of invest into, and you don't just feel OP at certain gateways. So for example, the way it used to work is, oh, you're reaching a certain level milestone, level 60, now you're all of a sudden OP. And until then, it feels really bad. You can't really even play your build because without having the hero trait, your build just doesn't come together yet. So I'm assuming they just want you to get a more fluid way of getting power here. Relics being removed. I don't really know if they're going to let you play around with legendary hero memories anymore. I have no idea here. We don't know too much. I am not too concerned with this one. I think it's just going to be an interesting thing. Hero traits in this game are quite interesting. Here you can see a rare one. There's basically 2 intrinsic mods. You have your implicit that you can upgrade, and there's like 50 upgrade levels. As far as I know, the upgrades to hero traits are going to be like, what, 20, 40, or was it 30, 50, something like that, right? But there's basically certain steps, and I assume you earn this from the league mechanic, although I don't exactly know. Yeah, we'll have to see. The hero traits in this game are very complicated usually. They have a lot of stacks, a lot of weird wording. In my opinion, the problem with them was more the translation that was very iffy, and the sentence structure didn't really make sense. So I don't know if this is actually necessary. I hope they're not dumbing it down too much. I hope that they leave the game kind of this charm where the characters are very unique to each other, and it's actually interesting to playing a new character, and it's not just very basic damage multipliers. I hope they can find kind of like a good spot there, but if there's any system that would need some streamlining, then it's definitely the hero traits. Now, the Netherrealm system has been quite adjusted. If you thought from this video, wow, these guys are so lazy, they are only reworking 90% of the game, well, don't worry, they're also reworking endgame. Netherrealms have been kind of, I wouldn't say reworked, they're kind of been like reverted in a sense. There is not going to be any more 8-1 to 8-4. There's only going to be time mark 1 to 7 as always. Then there's going to be time mark 8, and now there's going to be profound time mark 8, which is pretty cool. They also state here that they added Clockwork Ballet, which is the last season's league mechanic, into the game, which I think is a good thing. They basically reworked confusion cards for them to always be up. There is definitely a thing where, for example, confusion cards used to be basically just a 100% quantity. If you don't know, they have like certain effects, and then, yeah, you just take them for the 100% drop quantity, which makes it so you kind of have to go to that layout, which is a little bit annoying. But now they're saying basically, okay, we're going to make it worth your while, which I don't mind too much. But yeah, for the Netherrealm adjustment, just quickly, there's going to be Profound Time Mark 8, and there's also going to be Deep Space that's going to be back. Here you can see kind of how it's going to work. And the drop quantity is going from like 60% on Time Mark 8, 100% on Profound, and then 200% on Deep Space. Do note that Time Mark 8 and Profound Time Mark 8 have the same beacon, so that means most likely not good things for Time Mark 8. They're going to be priced around what kind of loot you're going to get from Profound. So depending on how hard that's going to be, we don't really know what that means. Deep Space is going to be apparently a lot harder and has its own beacons. What else? Yeah, so basically with the confusion cards, another thing they wanted to do is make it so they actually hold on for longer. So 4 stages. I don't know exactly what that means. It wasn't completely clear to me when rewatching it. Now, the passives right here have been reworked and beautified a lot. They looked very janky, and now they're actually very pretty in its current form. So I'm very much looking forward to min-maxing these trees. They are also going to rework the confusion cards that can actually appear. So if you remember, sometimes you're going here and all of a sudden you get like a God of Machines card, and it's like, I don't have God of Machines spec'd, and now I can't spec it, so what am I supposed to do? Well, those are not in the main pool. The main pool only has basic ones, and you can introduce them with the chart, right? With the passive trees. So for example, there's maybe going to be like a note here somewhere that says, introduce the confusion card. But if you don't spec into that mechanic, you will not get it and get no useless cards, basically. Another thing they talked about was game difficulty. The game is supposed to be harder now, which I don't know what that exactly means. 2 seasons ago, it meant that you get one shot off screen by some ice screech, and you weren't even able to react, and rares were way harder to beat than uniques, but that's already given in most RPGs. So I don't really know what this means. We'll see it once it's out. Melee mobs have been buffed substantially, so apparently they don't want you to just walk up to a pack and there's nothing going to happen to you if you have certain builds. They're going to hit harder. They have more attack speed. I think this is across the board, but at the same time, they don't want to make it so it's too spammy, right? So they're going to probably remove some of the projectiles and want to make it less clutter. They also have a certain sentence thrown in there where they talk about exploding mobs. I don't know if they actually meant this, but I'm not a huge fan of exploding mobs in games. This is something we'll have to see once it comes out. And with exploding mobs, I obviously mean on-death effects, which is, yeah, a little bit of doozy. it seems like kind of this mechanic that devs really like to torture their players, and players just unanimously hate it. So yeah, we'll have to see what kind of feedback comes from that. Some quickie stuff here at the end. There is a path of progression. They basically said they want the game to feel like a lot more, like you get a lot more rewards in between for actually clearing stuff. So they made this path of progression, which looks very mobile, and you have to kind of like click through it. But there is an auto claim feature apparently, because when he clicks one in the video, all of them are kind of redeemed, which should happen at some point here. He's going to click it at some point. So you're going to get your passive tree points from here, for example. It's not just going to be small stuff, which I very much appreciate. I think it was here. He clicks claim, and I think all of them get rewarded. No, they actually don't. Claim. There it is. Okay, so I don't know exactly what that auto claim feature is. If I have to click every single time for 5 of these currencies right here, I'm not going to do that. I think that is like, I don't know, putting stickers on your Apple while you're going out to shopping, but to each their own. Yeah, I'm not interested in this, but okay, for people who want it, sure. There's a lot more quality of life updates coming though. The first one that I noticed is the trade house now has a search history, which is going to be huge if you've ever traded. And for example, you have like an item you want to scout, right? Like you want that item, but it's just not up or it's too expensive and you're trying to snipe it, right? You can basically not just save your search, but it's actually just going to be in a list very easily accessible, which I think is a very good thing, and I'll use that quite a bit. There is a affix library in the help menu, which is a huge deal. If you guys have ever tried to make a build in this game and you use, for example, the TLIDB, it is only sectioned by item base. For example, you go to body armor and then you can search all the affixes there. This has all the affixes of all the items. For example, as he puts it in the video, he puts in Ignite, and at least I think so. At some point he puts in Ignite. Yeah, and there's all the Ignite related affixes, which is pretty damn cool. So that is one of the best changes for me personally. In fact, something I remember is they said they put this in the help menu, which I disagree with. I would literally put that in the main menu. That is something that is super important, not just for build makers, but for anybody to kind of know what they can look at. Like, I don't know. I'm not really sure. It even tells you where, like what legendary that mod is from or what like body armor type it is from. It's just a crazy good feature. I do not think this should be just in the help menu that most people are never going to click. But to be fair, maybe this is too overwhelming for the general audience. So I get why they maybe would do that. There is also a mirror service in game. So they did some nice updates for Eterna, for example. There is a mirror service in game. In case you guys do not know, there is a item in this game, like a Mirror of Kalandra in PoE, that's called Twin Reflection. It used to be very cumbersome to do this with people because the game, like inviting people and stuff like that, it just doesn't really jive. It doesn't really make sense of the trading house, and the discords are kind of messy, right? So what you can do now here, if you look at this, you can put a rare item in, select reflection item, do a handling fee instead of a selling fee, and you can basically do a mirror service in-game. Wow. So what happens is if somebody mirrors this, the item goes back into your inventory and you get the FEs and the other person gets the copy. That is absolutely mind-blowing, and it's going to change the way people are going to itemize. And you can do this on corroded items apparently, which I did not know. However, with how deterministic crafting is, you might not even want to do this now, so we'll have to see for what mirrors are actually going to get used. But yeah, as I said, Eterna improvements, and then there's also a season pass overhaul. So they talked about free heroes right here. If you want to look at this section, I really hope they're going to take this seriously and put this into the main game. But they basically for now said next season, all heroes are free, which is great. And that's about all the changes that we went over here. We'll have to see how this works. I really hope they find their sweet spot where they don't have to rework the game every single league. It does become quite exhausting over time, so I hope they can kind of find that out. It is obviously exciting as a player, but at the same time, it's also nice to be in this kind of cozy spot where you actually start understanding a game. As for what content is to come once I kind of figured out what I want to do, I will be making a league starter video. It will probably not be before the league starts, kind of like after I already played a little bit, because this game is pretty hard to figure out from the patch notes. It is usually a lot of rambling in there, but there will be a build guide coming out about that. There will be a currency guide for people who are struggling. If you don't really know much about the game, definitely check out the max roll section that they have. It's very new player oriented because the game changes so much. The end game is very Wild West-ish in this game, but in general, you can drop over on twitch.tv/Palsteron and ask me. There's a lot of veteran players over there as well, so that's probably going to be good as well. But yeah, very much looking forward to this. Really gonna look what the guys at XD are cooking up again. And yeah, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.